You are watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV, and you are very welcome to today's discussion, especially you parents and your children. This is a very, very important episode for you. But of course, Issues at Hand is proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel in Tebe, where you can enjoy a relaxing moment, or you can go and have a conference at one of the many amazing conference halls on display, or you can just go for a weekend to celebrate your child who has done well in school and who is returning back to school. Make your reservation and booking today by calling the number on your screen. Now, my name is Bruno Edgar Tumuhere, and I am joined by, once again, by the way, making a triumphant return, I am joined by Mr. Andrew Cheyune, who is an educationist, capacity builder, and a practitioner of guidance and counseling. And I'm also joined once again by Mrs. Elizabeth Opolot, who is the director of the Global Institute of ICT. So you are welcome once again to Issues at Hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And today's discussion is on eliminating vices that are very apparent in schools. And we are having this conversation at such a critical time because as our children return to school to start the first term of this year, we want to know what are the vices that have been curtailing some of the schools and how can these vices be dealt with by, well, yes, hear this, by parents as well, because many of us as parents, we dump our children in the schools and then we say, now it's the teacher's responsibility. But no, that's not the case. We are all stakeholders in this. So these vices must be fought by parents, by teachers, by the school administrators, so that our children can be very happy and can prosper whilst in school. And we are going to start with one of the most recent issues, which is the issue of homosexuality.
Oh yes. Good morning, every listener out there. Thank you so much for always tuning in to Family TV, the source of wisdom. And being family, it has to come up and it has to be at the forefront of addressing these issues. I remain Cheyune Andrew, an educationist, at the same time a counselor. The most contagious issue that everyone is now worried about, not only the schools, the parents, and every other stakeholder. And trust me, we can no longer keep our eyes and ears covered. Time has come for everyone to wake up, condemn this in every other strict sense possible, in every other strict voice and action possible. Just like I always equated to Corona, we used to imagine was a problem in China, but a few months down the road, the whole world was in lockdown. Now, this is the same question of homosexuality. Many want to push it to schools, and we are coming up to educate the whole country. Saying that homosexuality is only pronounced in schools, that is an open lie, and I think we are shining away from responsibility. For example, our children have been in holidays for close to 2 months. Whatever they have learned, none of us has an idea. The little we know, you parents out there, you bought your children phones, but you have never taken responsibility to find out what they search on those phones, what they learn on those phones. We all have no idea. But trust me, when you go social media, it is perfectly rotten. Now, we are eagerly waiting for these children to come back to schools. And when we talk of schools, many times we only look at primary, secondary. We forget the tertiary institutions and the universities, where perhaps these habits are more pronounced and with little or no control. Because what children do in their hostels, we just have no idea. But here we are. We are saying children have learned a lot from home. And for us at school, we are now ready to detect any habit. And once we say, parent A, your child has perhaps been got in such and such a practice, don't fight the school authority. Don't begin planting or branding the whole school for practicing homosexuality. For us, we have detected this habit. This is a practice that is in our communities, in our societies, children, and by the way, what is very painful, the proprietors of this are targeting the age of 12, 14, maybe to up to around 24, 25, 30. They may not target a man who is already at the 4th floor, although we also have such people in practice. And people should know, by the way, what is very funny with our societies. Whereas we have women who are even officially known to be married, they also do these things undercover. We also have men who create this cover that I am married to so and so. But what they also do in their secret times and corners, no one can tell. Because research shows, by the way, dear parents, I have made extensive research in this practice. You just can't believe the gravity, the magnitude of this disease. People are walking, and we know them as married people. Someone has a wife at home, and you can't easily suspect any funny practice of that nature. But undercover, they even have specific hotels in town here, which we cannot on air voice out, where this is practiced. They know that those are their meeting corners. They even have special weddings. Today, Mr. So and so is getting married to Mr. So and so. Now, even in our societies, as we move, these people have signals. You find a man walking or behaving like a woman, they are sending signals. And these are things we must educate our children. We must first of all identify and accept there is a problem. And we all come up with solutions. How do we run out? And the immediate solution is to educate, talk to our children. What are some of these signals? How do I detect that this is a homosexual, this one is practicing lesbianism? How do we tell men have their funny styles? Either in terms of the way they walk, because they are yearning to be like women, to be spotted. You find they are putting on earrings, because these are things we copy, and our children emulate this without knowing what they mean, the implication. Because how would I tell that my fellow man is now acting as a woman, or is the woman in that game? He will have the earring. They have even gone ahead to put some earrings, or I don't know, it's nose ring for that case. Now, they put on, either they develop funny hairstyles, which should practically be for women, but now you find a man is styling up his hair. He's also doing some makeup. And besides, we have seen yesterday, I addressed this somewhere, and someone was confessing. A man just moved into his shop and began whispering to him, touching him in a funny way. This is a man of 40 years trying to convince or corrupt a man of around 35 years. So whereas we think it is a practice within the age of 14 to 20, there are even grown-up adults doing this. There are even women, married women. That is the most painful thing. Because on the outlook, you imagine this one is married. But what they practice, women to women undercover, it is so bad. When you go to hospitals, people are getting rotten. They are undergoing operations because of effects of homosexuality. Now, back to our question in schools. Parents out there are very scared, very worried that whereas this is going on, it is more pronounced in schools. Don't be deceived. There is no school, I repeat, that has a syllabus or that has a lesson called homosexuality. But we also get shocked when we hear a child in such a practice. Last term alone, we addressed around 10 girls, I think, who confessed they were in this practice. And one was saying, I have my boyfriend, but she's calling it boyfriend, in reality a fellow girl in another school. And how we got to know, she was trying to vibe another girl, because they call it vibing, convincing another girl into the same practice. And this is the girl who immediately reported it off. That is what Madame Opolot talked about, bringing, developing self-esteem and talking to our children. Let them know that their values, who they are and what they are worthy, so that they are not convinced. So, in the process, the child confessed. She had another girl somewhere, or boyfriend as she termed it, and she's now trying to compare the two. When we cancelled this girl, this was the nasty story she revealed. The mother is abroad in a certain country. She got married to a fellow woman. Her first daughter was also taken to Germany. She's also married to a man, rather to a woman. Now they are convincing this other little girl left at home that this is the best business, very lucrative. A lot of money is to be given, and the girl is also already in the same business. Now these are the people you send us to schools. And later when we detect this, you push the whole blame onto the schools. For us school managers, we are only doing guidance and counseling. And once we detect any child, we call the parent. We are not saying we are sending the child to hell, but we are saying, let us help this child. When he recovers from this habit, let us give her second chance in another school. Yes.
Definitely. Would you have anything to add to that, especially when it comes to tertiary institutions?
Okay.
Because like he has mentioned, there are things that are happening in hostels. At least, well...
It is terrible.
We can say at least, but it's a bad scale. But for primary and secondary,
you can detect a bit.
To monitor.
Yes, when you see some deviant behavior, you quickly check it on.
Yes.
But because now you're dealing with adults in tertiary institutions, how do you manage this issue?
Thank you very much, Bruno. I'm Elizabeth Opolot, as already introduced, and I'm happy to be here again this morning, and good morning to everyone that is out there listening to us. That which Andrew has just said is truly critical, and it is, like we've said, it is a vice that is everywhere and affecting everyone, and therefore at tertiary level, obviously, that is also there. Just like we have seen that it is in the primary schools, secondary level, and obviously post-secondary, and also in the homes. Now, at tertiary level, it is of course a little more tricky because we don't really have much power, and we can't really restrain these students so much because they are, if you would say, of age, above 18, and they are at liberty to do whatever it is that they want. Now, because of that, the best way we can control that is really through counseling and guidance. I always tell my lecturers that please, for every time you stand before a class, make sure that as you teach, you put in an idea, you teach these students about the way of life. Don't say, I've come to teach maybe political science, maybe I've come to teach media law, and that is it. Every moment, every once, once, at least once in, I don't know, about in a span of about 30 minutes, throw in words. Because as counselors, I happen to be a counselor also, every time we say, get a teachable time. In other words, when you look at the situation, at the circumstances, look at a point where you can teach, you can instruct, you can guide, you can counsel the students, the people, your clients. Because failure to do so, we shall not have. Because at tertiary level, we don't have assemblies. Rarely do you call assemblies as it is at primary and secondary level. Now, because we don't do that, the only opportune time is for you to use the lecture time. And even at this point, I have to say, let us all take it upon ourselves to do something. Don't fold your hands and say, that is not my job. Let the teachers do it. Let the pastors do it. Let the bishops and clergymen do it. Let it be a responsibility of each and every one of us. In the past, they used to say, omwana wa community. So everyone was responsible, which is not the case now. But we are saying, can we go back to that? Even if it is a taxi, you are in a taxi, and you realize somebody is acting in a certain way, I don't think it is wrong for you not to say something to such a child. Or even when you're moving, even if it doesn't seem to be your concern, let us not be scared by people who say, "Chukukwatira kowa." I mean, are you concerned about me? Let us just ignore that, and let us take it that God has put us on this planet Earth at such a time for a reason. And if it is for a reason, let us do our part. Because for us, as in those different roles and capacities, we are going to give account to God. You were a teacher, you were a parent, you were whatever it is, we are going to give account. What have you done about what is happening? Because it is there. And there won't be any opportune time that we are going to sit here and just talk about. No, simply take the opportunity and the chance to do so, talk about it, encourage these people, rally them into the right direction. Failure to do so, the world is just going too fast, very fast, beyond what we can manage. So, back to the question, at tertiary level, we encourage that we do it as much as possible. Every opportune time, please be able to talk to these students. Someone out there will hear it, will hear you out, and will be able to change and be able to be a better person.
Indeed, and with this overarching scale at which it is practiced, Mr. Cherine,
Yes.
how then can we confront and curtail this issue? Because, like you've said, it won't take, it's not only the participation of teachers, of school managers, but as parents, as people in this community, it will, we all have to be responsible to fight it. How can this be done? She has mentioned in her part, when it comes to tertiary institutions, there is counseling that is structured in a way that, well, a lecturer will come and give you a word of advice.
Yes.
But what more can we do to curtail this issue?
Oh yes, a lot has to be done, but it all begins at home. Parents, now let us open our eyes wider. Let us check what our children do, especially in our absence. For example, you bought your children phones, thank you, but at one time I taught you that the moment you buy your child a smartphone before the age of, say, 19, 18, you've hired someone you don't know, you can't see, to spoil your child. And by the way, we have started testing and feeling the effects of this. Let us check what our children do with the phones we bought them. For example, check if you can abruptly get your child's phone and open it. By the way, that is if you're lucky, you can access it. Because at every point, there is a password. You find a child is in senior 3, at every level, there is a password. But if only you can tell your child, get me your phone, and we scan through together, you realize how dirty, how rotten your child is. You find it is past midnight, for you're sleeping, your child is still on WhatsApp. Whatever they get on social media is, the issue of social media is bigger than we can ever discuss. But parents, check out what your children do with the phones you bought them. Then 2, let us do guidance and counseling. Many parents shy away. I can't talk to my child. Where will I begin from? Now, if you can't talk to your child and you expect to send your child to someone else, now where will that other person begin from? I think that is shying away from responsibility. Let us talk to these children, and we need to be a little packaged. What should they hear at what age? But for example, when the child is already senior 4, 5, 6, this is now a grown-up stage. They are sexually getting more active and excited. Now that is the time we should guide them not to be lured into this nonsense. That you are a woman, this is what is expected of you as you grow up. Don't allow to be fooled by fellow girls, or if it's a boy, equally deliver the same message. Parents, we need to check out the company of our children, because you'll find a boy is bringing his colleagues home. They're in their bedroom, after all he's with fellow boys, and in unknown circumstances, this may not easily scare. He's a boy, he's with fellow boys. Oh my God, it is now even more scaring than finding a boy with a girl. In fact, finding a boy with a girl is becoming now even normal, or the expected trend. But now if it's the other way around, it becomes even more scaring. So boys pretend, because we have addressed cases in schools of boy to boy kissing. They were got red-handed in a certain room, kissing. Now you find, when you find the boy is in the company of a fellow boy, back then you wouldn't get scared. Today it is even more scaring. So let us check out the company. This business of my child is going to have a sleepover. You know, there is now that new terminology and the new lifestyle. A sleepover at his friend's home or place, and what? Let us be very careful. What they do undercover, you can't tell. Then, when they are coming back to school, talk to them, find out the friends they have at school. Then, even your relationship with the teachers. At least every other school where you take your child, there should be that parent teacher you're in touch with. That whereas I'm not around, Bruno, I'm leaving this child in your hands. Monitor the child. 2, study the child. How do you say the child? Behavior. Because the moment the child begins habits of homosexuality. These are the immediate indicators. If she is a girl, and maybe she's the one now in this game acting as a man, you'll find your girl trying to pick on a manly character. At times we know, and the scientists will talk about hormonal imbalance, where the girl has excess of the would-be male hormones. Yes, we have those cases. But now you find, in terms of character, the girl wants to behave like a boy in whatever she does. She takes on to manly activity, rather tasks. Sometimes it's not just a question of hormonal imbalance. That is already a wake-up call. You find it's your girl, your boy at home, who is purely behaving and picking onto or fancying girl, either dress code or behavior. Be on the lookout. Then we have children at tertiary institutions or universities. Now, parents out there, this is where it is worst pronounced. You have no idea of what they have in their hostels. But you find you manage to secure some small basics. One semester into university, the whole room is full with every other expensive fancy items. Do you ever check out what your children have in the hostels? Do you make abrupt checkup? Because we tend to imagine while they're at the hostel, university, they are fully grown up. These are mature people. One thing we need to understand, the ones promoting homosexuality are touching in the most tempting zone. They are using money. They have financed it to a level you can't just believe. You find we have agents. A child is sent in a particular school as an agent to recruit. And the plan is, the more you recruit, the more money, the more commission. If only you can convince one girl, join us, we are in this practice, but it's normal, there is no harm. A lot of money. Now when you find your child, you didn't buy her that phone, but that is what she has. You didn't buy her that flat screen, but that is what she has. Be a little more careful. Boys at university, they want to own cars, they want to own this. So they are moving into every other dubious practice, and that is where we are. But still, don't only look at it at the level of children in school. Let us also look at the community, because I've told you this practice is with even big men you cannot believe, who are even known to be married, but undercover they are into this because it is partly business, leave alone the sexual aspect, but it is also business that is attracting and luring very many people into that practice. So let us be on the watch out. Let us talk. It's not a question of teachers should talk, that should stop. It is everyone's responsibility. The clergy in church talk about it. Government, the other time I had in the parliament, this was also becoming an issue and I loved it. But let us talk. There are government officials who are into this, who are supporting these promoters of homosexuality. The world is rotten. Let us not keep our eyes and ears covered anymore. The only way is talking, because why talking? You cannot beat someone. Maybe at an early stage, primarily, when you find someone is into that, we can use chibok, because the body needs to be scared, so that when the girl looks at the other fellow girl and remembers the chibok you gave. By the way, chibok at an early stage is very okay. You need to scare her off. But now at a grown-up stage, trust me, chibok cannot be an issue. It is question of talking, because even entering into this practice, it was through talking. Therefore, clearing out the habit can only be done equally by educating people, showing them the dangers. Medical doctors come up and talk to the world, because you're addressing these issues undercover. These are serious cases in hospitals. I told people are getting rotten, people are undergoing operations, but medics are not coming up to talk about these things. Yet hospitals are having 1,000 cases. Let us talk. The issue is about talking, educating children. In schools, let us do continuous guidance and counseling. School managers, if you can't address this, we need to focus on it. We need invite us. We talk to the children. We talk to the teachers, so that they are also more vigilant, more aware, made more aware of this practice, so that they can address it with more knowledge. Oh yes.
Indeed, and we hope this is an issue that will be addressed by all stakeholders. As you've had the advice right there, and I agree. It starts with us parents talking to our children, having quality time with our children, listening to them and from them, and knowing what is going on in their lives. Now,
Bruno, I just wanted to add just something small.
Yes, please.
What amazes me is when, for instance, the parents say, "Let the teachers do it." And can you imagine, you as a parent, you have about 1, 2, 3 children. And if you are failing to talk to 3 children, how about in school where somebody is taking care of thousands of them? Which of the two is easier to talk? And then at school level, remember we are also mainly mainly looking at academic excellence. So our attention might be really in that line of academic excellence. That's not to say we are not supposed to cancel. We obviously do cancel. However, as a parent, I think we should take advantage of the fact that we have smaller numbers, which then we should take care of, than expect a school that has thousands of students. And moreover, you have a key role that you're looking at. Because at the end of the term, they are going to ask you, why is there no academic excellence? Why is it that you've not covered up to expected level? So, parents, let us do our part.
Actually, on that note, as counselors, let me ask you this, because it's something that has been perturbing me. Why is it that some of us as parents is it fear? Why is it that we are not comfortable talking to our children?
I think...
And a second to add to that, sorry, is I know for some are comfortable talking to their children about other issues, but when it comes to things like sexual health and sexual education, we are uncomfortable. How best can we have such conversations with our children?
Obviously, it is something that we should say is costly. Costly in terms of time, in terms of ability to do it. And I think in the past, remember, I think culturally it is the senga, the auntie, the paternal sister to the father, who does some of that counseling. But I think times have changed because everything has changed. I think it is high time we all took it as a responsibility. Mother, father, let us all do our part. Elder sister, elder brother, let us do our part and talk to the younger or the people who are younger than us. Because if we are going to say, I fear, how do I begin to... I really want to say, yes, it's not easy. Because as a parent, by the way, Andrew has been saying that make sure that, for instance, you go through the things of your child. Check through. Why not check his bag or her bag? You will be surprised to discover whatever you have to discover. Do you know you'll be even shocked that for your child, you'll be shocked to find condoms there. If you don't check, there's no way you'd find out. So, can we get tactics? If we have not done so in the past, can we do it now? Can we just tell yourself, I have to do my part? Remember, I said we are going to give account of everything. And remember, the success of any parent is always seen through the children. If the children are not well behaved in whichever way, they will always look at the parent. It is biblical. Omwana omusirusiru avumaganya nyina, but I mean the parent. So let us do our part. It may have been difficult. It may not have been possible. Can we begin it and do it? Take time. Like I said, we should always have teachable points. If you're at table having dinner, just get something to talk about and just say, by the way, Tom, who is your friend? And begin from there and talk then about how to make good friends. Which friends that are going to be positive, that are going to be building and not ones to pull you down. You even put it to them and say, by the way, who is a good friend? So make every opportunity and take every chance to say anything to them. And the children will love it. They will grow up saying, by the way, I loved the mealtime Why? Because mommy and daddy would always talk to us. And it is those very points that have made me who I am. Because every time I'm tempted to do this and the other, I always remember the voice of daddy. I always remember the voice of mommy telling me, please don't do this. Please do the other. Please fear God. If we don't do our part, I'm telling you, we are wasting time. It is those values that these children are going to live by and to live with, and they will take them miles and miles and miles.
Today's episode, we are talking about how to eliminate vices from schools. Now, if you just joined us before the break, we were talking about the issue of homosexuality, but we know that there are so many other vices that need to be curtailed when it comes to schools. And now, in this segment, we are going to start with talking about indecent dressing. Yes, it's a vice. And for many of us now, like myself, I remember I used to be so angry with those rules on how to dress, but we're going to hear about why it's very important when it comes to the nurturing of our children. So, Mr. Andrew, why is indecent dressing an issue, and how can we solve this in schools?
Yeah, it is becoming a very serious issue that sends a signal of either teachers not doing their part or parents have totally ignored their responsibility. Because I always talk to the children, and whenever I get chance to educate, that you'll be addressed by the way you dress. You'll be addressed by the way you dress. And when we talk of dressing, many people quickly look at the clothes, but it begins with right from the haircut you choose to have to the very last paint of your nail, if you must have paint. Now, what challenges we are getting in schools? Children's respect to uniform, which is now abused right from home. And I feel before I even push it to the home, teachers, school managers have not done their part. Because parents out there, it's now season for taking back children to school. If you want to ever study the school, before you even look at building, before you interact with anybody, if you want to know the quality of the school where you've taken your child, look at how children respect uniform. That is the first signal that speaks volumes about a given school. So when you find skirts for the girls are too short, because that is the immediate thing we look at, the boys have also now picked on to funny fashions. They still cut their trousers, besides making them pipes as they define it, very tight. They cut them. We used to imagine cutting trousers to make them too short was a Muslim culture, but it's now becoming a trending fashion. But I think it is too off, because I've not seen any company having uniform that is not respected. And I always tell children that even when you're to be employed anywhere, you will either have a corporate wear. Even if you choose to be a fuel pump attendant, you must have uniform. At worst, even if you chose to become an askari, you would still have uniform. So everywhere you go, having uniform is not a punishment, and it has to be respected. But teachers, school managers, you have not helped us. Because the moment I go to school, like we are going to take children to school, the first thing, buy uniform. Once I've bought uniform, why should I then after a term or a month get back to school and I find my child in totally a different attire? The blouse is too short, the skirt is too short, tight. I feel in such a situation that the teacher in my absence has not played their part. But we also have nowadays scholars who come to school. You always see them as you walk, either you're going for work, you find children moving to school. Shirts are not tucked in, they are hanging. Trousers are funny, hairstyles are hopeless. If they are the girls, they're even putting on necklaces, earrings, and they are moving into a given school where their scar opens the gate and gladly welcomes them in. You ask yourself, who is to blame? Why should such children, poorly dressed, enter or leave your home and move to school? Never allow your child, dear parents, to be the temptation. And by the children have grown up, they have all the fancy bodies, we must say. Let them be covered. That is why in schools we have uniform. By the way, there are so many reasons why schools have uniforms. To cover up this growing body. not to be a temptation, not to scare, and to create that kind of uniformity. Let us respect uniform. Parents out there, before you pack your child's uniform, because we said it's your duty to check their suitcase, check out their uniform, whether it is still in a fitting shape. Check out the hairstyle, because we have always pushed parents back. Let your child go to the salon, and you find the parent is very bitter. But is it wrong for your child to have a decent haircut? Is it in any way wrong for your child to have a decent skirt, more so a fully grown-up girl child? So let us cooperate. Otherwise, there is a problem. Uniform is dying out, and these are coming from home, because what the monkey does, what it sees, it's what it does. So, right from home, the way you dress, you the mother, those short skirts before your children, that is exactly what even the child will do when they leave home. We have seen them in the holidays moving around. There is little respect to uniform. And this is exactly, even their attire out besides uniform. These other ordinary clothes, they should be decent. Teach your children to be decent. If we had time, perhaps we would elaborate in depth. But in the interest of time, I call upon parents, before you take back children to schools, let them first do the fitting at home. Once you find the skirt is showing the knees, your child is already decent. When you find the skirt is too short, please help your child. Don't allow your child to be the temptation. I always tell children, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Let your children deliver others from evil, not leading them into temptation. And it's for both boys and girls. It all begins from home. Let parents equally learn to be decent before their children and teach the decency. This is not only going to be taught in schools, it begins from home.
Indeed, and that point you were talking about, how children are learning how to dress from their parents. It reminds me about how many times I'm passing through the community where I stay, and I find children dancing at a young age, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, dancing indecently, and the parents are cheering them on. And so when they go to school and they dance indecently, parents say, "But you schools, you're teaching our
they always
children
post
bad
videos.
manners."
When you go
And
to
yet,
now, TikTok is becoming another vice. They are posting all sorts of silly videos, and as they are dancing, parents are cheering up. These are things learned from home. Now, when they come to school, they teach one another. By the way, that is what happens at school. They teach one another. Your child who was very innocent ends up learning a very funny dancing stroke from maybe their dormitories. Now, when she comes back home to practice the same, you bounce the blame onto the schools that this is taught in schools. We don't teach those funny dancing strokes in schools. Let us watch whatever children do at home. Those funny dancing styles, don't call it fashionable. That is now the trend. Now this is modernity. I think we even need to teach parents what modernity is all about. Every other stupid practice, we brand it modernity. So children, parents, let us do our role. Parenting takes a community. Let everyone be on the watch out. The clergy in church condemn these vices, because it is everyone's responsibility to come up with a stable or groomed generation.
Indeed. Now, talking about something that is taught from child to child, the use of certain drugs such as alcohol and cannabis and the likes. And so this has become a very big issue in schools. Why is there drug abuse in schools, and how can this be curtailed?
Yeah, maybe to begin with, we want to define what a drug is. And we say it's any substance that when you take it, it alters the functioning of the central nervous system or the brain. And therefore, it leads to change of feelings, change of thoughts, change of actions, behavior, etc. And of course, there are various types of drugs as discovered in the surveys carried out. For instance, there is alcohol, there is Cuba, there are cigarettes, there is shisha, marijuana, khat, cocaine, heroin. All these are different types of drugs. Now, it becomes a vice when these children are exposed to that. And the question is how and where. I think, truth be told, this having been a long holiday of 2 months, these children get exposed. Like we've been saying and we have said, we tend to allow these children to go different places, which places we possibly don't have power over and don't have control over. When these children go to those places, who knows, they get some of these habits, and for instance, they take on such things like drugs. When you ask a child, by the way, how did you begin to maybe smoke? They'll say it is maybe a friend, X, or it is when I went to see uncle so and so or auntie so and so. Because when they go visiting, you don't know and you have no control of how people manage their home and what they do, you know. So there are different ways in which these children get some of these substances. And like we have said, as parents, let us ensure we check and see some of these behaviors that are out of the ordinary. And when we do so in time, then we will be able to curtail it, to reduce it or to stop it, perhaps, you know, because the effects are enormous. There is so much that happens, and it keeps on small. Before you know, the addiction, as the word is, the child gets addicted and they can't do away with it at all. And possibly they will go and teach others to whichever community this child is going, either in school or in, wherever they are going to go. So if we did our part and ensure that this doesn't happen and it is stopped, and you dissuade this child from such behaviors, which are detectable, you can tell. For instance, you can see a person who is chewing all the time. Sometimes somebody does the chewing because they want you to feel the scent of the bubble gum so that you don't tell that the person has been smoking. And then there are some others that you can see. For instance, the lips, all these things. Let us be observant of what this child is, so that at the earliest time possible, you are able to cut it out. I'm told some of these parties that these children go for, you know very well that they have a tendency of saying, I have a party where such and such a place. I won't mention any place, but there are those parties that they go for. Truth be told, some of these drugs are put in some of the eats that the children eat, and they just get intoxicated, and you realize that they are going beyond what is normal and what is necessary. So when we do observe that, then we should be able to talk it out. But even before we get there, I'll get back to what I said before. Let us be friends to our children. Let us create that friendship. When we do, we'll be able to talk about some of these things and say, you know what? There is this going on and you're likely to get it. Please, for the sake of yourself and everyone else, please act responsibly. Those attractions will be there, but do not get attracted to them, because once you begin it, it might be difficult to get out of it. But the world and the community is full of these things everywhere. That the child, wherever they turn, everywhere, left, right, center, it is there. But what is going to save this child is a personal action, character. Let us build the character of these children and let them detest, the word is detest. Let them detest some of these vices, because unless a child develops it himself or herself, because remember, for instance, when they are getting to the level of teenage, they cease to worry about authority. They don't want authority. And authority here, we are talking about the teachers, we are talking about the parents, but rather they want to listen to fellow or peers, the fellow friends, or the like I said, the peers. Now, if they're going to listen to the peers, whatever these peers are going to say, they'll take it as gospel truth. And usually, most of the time, whatever they are going to listen to is sometimes myths, they are lies. And so therefore, let us train these children that please respect authority. Listen to your parent. Listen to authority, because whatever they are telling you, it is for your good. It is good. But this other friend, whatever they might say, some of it you had better sieve it. It may not be the truth. Some of them are simply attracting you to wrong behavior. So please ensure that you do what is good. And of course, above it all, let us pray for them. Let us teach them to pray. Let us tell them, please ask God to guide you. And then you'll be able to get out of the many, many temptations that you are surrounded with.
Indeed, it's important that we teach them, our children, how to pray, and that we pray for our children. By the way, we have to pray for them every time, every day. Now, in closing, as we prepare to send our children back to school, what word of advice can you leave with us as parents, Mr. Andrew, and what word of advice can you leave with us as children, or as children as one, but also school administrators, since you also wear that hat, Mrs. Elizabeth?
Oh, yes, just a small thing I wanted to add on what Madam was concluding, the question of drug abuse. Now, parents get shocked whenever you're called at school and you're told your child was caught in this practice. It is really flabbergasting, it annoys, it really takes away the parent's heart, how the child got to know or to learn this or practice this. But one thing we must be very careful, especially as we buy eats. There are those who are in this business because they already know it is a booming, very lucrative business. They make cookies, biscuits for their children because they know that is what children want. They are even now designing certain juice mixed up with cocaine. We got children and we ask them a lot. There are things, actually, people's businesses I wouldn't love to destroy here. But be careful with the cookies and the biscuits children buy to take at school. They pack these things with already that chemical. As they are designing them, there is already a chemical. There are even children who will tell other their colleagues, don't worry, me, I'll bring you the cookies. Give me the money. May I have somebody who makes very good or sweet cookies? Get me the money. Yet they are already in a network that the cookies they take at school, one only needs to have like a small bite or two. And eventually, the brain is already disorganized. It's already off. And this is what justifies the increasing cases of indiscipline in schools, because children who are under drug influence cannot be controlled. Then even the juice they take, parents, if possible, let us take back our responsibility of doing the shopping. Because we used to imagine now children are grown up. It's a question of looking for a few coins, let them go, do their shopping. Today, we can no longer trust the children. What they buy, and it will be, they'll tell you, this is my interest, this is the type I want, and you'll take it very easy. But undercover, check their property. As we are going back to school, parents, let us be very vigilant. Let us be on the lookout, because no one principle. Your child will try to live a pretentious life. She wants to be an angel before you, the parent. When they get to school, we now receive the real monsters. We receive the real monsters in quotation. So while at home, they are angels, very innocent. They want to behave to your expectation. While at school, like Madam said, they no longer fear authority. They now play their game to the fullest. So let us be on the regular watch out. Even at school, make abrupt checkups. Don't only wait for visitations. If there are parents' meetings all days, please be a participant. Interact with the teachers and be ready to cooperate if we must help our children. Oh yes, I remain Chaine Andrew, an educationist for schools out there. We do talk to the children, we talk to the teachers. In case you need me, 0706 28 1566. 0706 28 1566. Thank you so much. I wish you the very best of the town.
Mrs. Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you very much. As administrators, I think I want to encourage us that let us not get tired. Let us be there to help these children. That is our responsibility, like I've said before. Let us continue on and on until we get the best that we can get, because They have been the parents have entrusted us with these children. At whichever level, let us ensure we keep them and let us ensure they are on the right track. Don't get tired, be there, keep in there, we shall be able to achieve. And they will look back and say, if it wasn't for teacher who or lecturer who, I wouldn't be who I am. I remain Elizabeth Opolot, Global Institute of IT and Business. I actually also teach at Kitante Hill School. I'm a counselor there. Please, if you want any services, my number 0772516354. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Elizabeth and Mr. Andrew, for giving us that wonderful knowledge on things we can do as parents when it comes to ensuring our children are keeping away from these vices as they go back to schools. And thank you so much for joining us on Issues at Hand. We continue to have relevant discussions when it comes to our communities and to our country, and we have learned so much as parents. Let's go to school, take our children back to school with practicing the advice that has been shared with us today, and we shall see that we have children who will grow up to be very developmental people in this country. Ciao, let's go in for a coffee break. During the coffee break, you can, with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, think about these important life lessons that have been shared this morning. God bless you.